I'm going to turn it over to Heather Gonzalez, co-chair of the LCAP, but I can talk, co-chair of the LCAP PAC. So thank you, Heather, and it's turned over to you.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone. Happy Thursday. We're really excited to go ahead and kick off this next LCAP. We have a pretty full agenda, so we can kind of just dive in. But before going into taking attendance and some of those other necessary components, I just want to be completely transparent and vulnerable that this will be my first time facilitating. So please be gentle, because I feel like I might stumble, and that's okay because we're all learning and none of us have arrived. So I just want to lean into that discomfort real quick because I might mess up and need some support, and I'm so happy that we're in a supportive environment. All of that being said, welcome again, and I think we'll just be looking to Laura to go ahead and take the do the roll call. Or not. That's what I have on my agenda. Laura, is that something that we're going to be doing kind of vocally, or is that something that you'll be doing behind the scenes, just for my clarity?
I'm so sorry, I muted myself, so I was talking to myself. Thank you, Heather, for that gracious segue there. So I'm going to now go ahead and take roll call by voice. So for committee members, I think I'm going to need to take you off of mute so you can respond that you're here. So I see Heather there. Okay, thank you, Heather. Caroline, I took you off the mute. Can you respond that you're here?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. And Damaris, I just unmuted you. Can you respond?
Good evening, Laura. I'm here.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving over to Amber B.
Good evening, all. I'm here.
Thank you. Beth Kalab.
Good evening, I'm here.
Thank you. Glad you joined us. Kenan.
Hi, I'm here.
Perfect. Let's see. And Stephanie.
I'm here. Elnora's here with me. Don't forget, I broke my ankle, so if I have to step out, and we're kind of, she's keeping me feedback. If I have to step away for a minute.
All right, hope that's going well. I know we talked the other day. All right, let me just scroll up the video real quick and make sure I got everybody. Ken and Stephanie, Heather. Okay.
Laura, I'd like to make sure that you make Jacqueline Shields, she's present as an attendee, as a panelist, please.
Yes, thank you. I just switched over to there. It looks like Chelsea is here. Chelsea, thank you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm. And then also, do we have a Roxanne Mitchell in the waiting room that needs to be received?
There's no waiting room with this. They should just be able to join.
Okay.
So we've got, let's see, Chelsea.
Good evening, I'm here.
Hi, thank you. And then, oh, here's Roxanne. Okay. Great, I think we're okay. And then Jacqueline, you just joined us as well, Jacqueline Shields.
Yes, it took me a while to get on here, but I was able to get on.
Good, glad you figured it out. So we've got Jacqueline and Chelsea. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm showing 10 members as of right now. I'll do a quick check just to make sure, because we'll need that for quorum purposes. Heather, would you like me to queue up the agenda for you?
Yes, please. That would be great.
Okay, there you go. Can you see it?
I can. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to move into the board liaison and superintendent update. I did not see Kent on call, but I want to take pause and see if there is an update or stand-in, or if I did miss Kent. I'd like to introduce that opportunity. Someone can confirm.
Heather, I'm here.
Oh, yay. Sorry, Kent. No shade.
I just, no worries. I have really poor reception at home, so I keep my camera off. I'm just going to say thanks to everybody for being here. And you guys have a lot of business to do, so I'm not going to take up any time. And I'll let you guys get right to your business. So thank you, everybody. And Heather, thanks for hosting tonight.
For sure. Thank you so much. All right. And then up next, I would like to introduce Superintendent McKibben, Dr. McKibben, who serves as our board liaison. If you have any updates.
I just want to say welcome to everybody. This is a very important meeting, and that this is the time that we look at the superintendent's responses, and we look at the learning continuity and attendance plan, and because it needs to be sent off by the end of this month, and it will go back to the board on the 22nd, and then it goes over to the county and then in. So there's lots to do today, and thanks for all of you for your participation in this.
Thank you so much, Dr. McKibben. I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge our other board liaison, Zima Creason. Hi, Zima. Do you have any updates or things that you'd like to say before we move on?
Hey, Heather. Hi, friends. Thank you. So Zima Creason, San Juan School Board. I'm the alternate board liaison. And so I'm really here to fill in for Mike if he needs me to, but I love LCAP, so I will absolutely drop in from time to time. And of course, I'm always available if anyone ever wants to connect, and just want to express gratitude to you and to everyone that's spending their evening with us to do this important work.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Zima, and we love you back. All right.
Love, love, love.
So moving forward, the next agenda item will be visitor comments. See, this is going to be the whole night, I see. And
So Laura, yeah, go ahead. Laura, if you don't mind sharing information about the visitor comment process.
You bet. Visitor comments. The law allows the public or visitors to address the committee for items on the agenda and not on the agenda, but the law prohibits action by the committee on non-agenda items. So issues raised by visitors at tonight's meeting, they may be referred to a future meeting agenda for the LCAP PAC discussion. We ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes per individual visitor speaker, and we've got a timer just to keep us honest. So with that, I will ask if there are any visitors that would like to comment, and if so, I will need you to raise your hand so I can take you off mute. Let's see, I've got somebody named Community Concerns. So I'm going to allow you to talk. If you can identify yourself as a visitor and what your connection is, that would be great. Okay. Community concerns?
Can you hear me? This is Nelson. I'm LCAP member, and I'm attending. And it doesn't look like I've been added as a panelist. So can you please add me as a panelist?
We're not able to do that at this time, sir. If you'd like to go ahead and, Laura, you have not started the timer. If you can go ahead and share your concern.
Yes, as an LCAP member, I I should be able to attend this. And if there is some action that has been taken, then could you please let the committee know what has occurred where I am not allowed as operating as chair or as an LCAP PAC member?
It's Tom Nelson, guys.
If you can allow the visitor to finish his, are you done, sir, with completing your statement?
Yeah, well, you can put this underneath committee business. So please provide clarification. Am I, Tom Nelson, a member of the LCAP PAC?
Again, this is under visitor comments. So if you've completed your comment, we'll go ahead and move on to the next statement.
Can I get a response? I am a committee member, so I should be allowed to engage in a discussion and get an answer, especially since this is committee business. So if there is some reason that I am being excluded, I would like it to be part of the record of the committee of why that is occurring and who it is that authorized it.
Are you done with your comment?
Are you going to respond?
It is a visitor comment section. At this time, we don't need to respond to any visitor comments. So if you're complete, we're able to move on to the next comment. Laura, go ahead and go ahead and raise the hand of the next individual who has a comment.
Hey, is there?
I believe that was Tom Nelson. I believe he's a part of the LCAP as a committee member.
So Lisa, let me step in here because this is Superintendent Kern. So for the committee, in full transparency, and I need to be a little cautious here. There was some information that was shared with staff at the district that was shared with the board liaisons. The board liaisons, along with the recommendation from staff, made the decision that we were going to hit pause with Mr. Nelson and his role with this committee until he came in and had set up a meeting to meet with staff, which he was given an opportunity to do earlier this week. He was unable to. We reached out to him again, still unable. So based on recommendation and decision from the board, the staff, the board liaisons, the decision was made to hit pause in his role with this committee at the time being. We are still waiting for him to respond to us to set up a time to meet with certain members of the staff. Once that is done, we will be able to hopefully move forward. So I really can't share much more than that at this time. That does not take formal action from the board. That is something that the board has the right to do in their purview. And so I'll just leave it at that at this time.
Thank you, Superintendent Kern. So at this time, we're still in visitor comments. And so for those individuals who are not committee members, but are visitors to this meeting, are there any other visitors who would like to make comments?
Yes, I do not see any hands raised, so we can go ahead and move forward.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gonzalez?
All right, moving to the next agenda item. I lost my place though.
I have the agenda back up, Heather, if you'd like to look at it.
Double screening. We're gonna go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from 8/27. I believe that was sent out for everyone to review in advance.
Correct. So I will go ahead. I'm going to unmute.
Laura,
Oh,
before we move, excuse me, this is Lisa Borrego. Before we move forward, Laura, do we have a quorum?
We do. We have 12 members.
Okay, just wanted to have that on record. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down the video, and I'll have you come off mute. And what, Heather, do we usually do a first or second to approve the minutes, or?
Yeah, I think we would give a little bit of time for folks who haven't yet been able to look over the meeting minutes to do so, and then we would ask for someone to make a motion to approve, then a second, and then vote.
Okay, so could I get a sorry if this is your part, Heather. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve.
And may I ask who this is, please?
Pamela Fryer.
Hi, Pamela.
It was a heck of a time trying to get on this thing.
Oh, well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you figured it out. Okay, thank you. All right, may I get a second motion?
I second the motion.
And may I ask who this is?
Chelsea Kelly.
Chelsea. Thank you, Chelsea. All right, and with that, I'm going to go down the list and get a physical count or a motion to approve. Heather, do you approve?
I do. Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Chelsea Kelly, do you approve?
Yes, I approve. This is Chelsea.
Thank you. Okay. Damaris, do you approve the minutes? Damaris? Let's see.
Yes, I do, Laura.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Pamela?
Yes.
Thank you. Zena?
Yes.
Thank you. Amber?
Yes.
Thank you. Beth, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
Yes.
Caroline? Let's see. Caroline, do you approve the minutes?
Yes, I approve the minutes.
Thank you. I think that just leaves Stephanie and Nora. Let me scroll back up. There we go. Stephanie, do you approve the minutes? Stephanie?
Yes, I approve.
Thank you. How about Elnora?
Approve or not? Just
Great. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So we have 12 approvals and no abstentions. No nays. Okay. Great.
Wonderful.
So Heather, I'll be back to you now.
All right, moving forward, before we dive into another quick community building activity, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge some of our new PAC members. Miss Phyllis Parisi in particular. If you have the desire, we would like to take a moment to have you introduce yourself, to share what schools that you're connected to or that you're representing. And if you have students in the district, to just kind of let folks know, who are you?
And I don't see Phyllis on yet. She was going to try to pop on at some point, but she wasn't sure what time.
Okay. Do we have any other new LCAP PACs who have members who have not been able to kind of be formally introduced?
We have Elnora and Pamela and Beth, but I believe they were introduced on the at the August 27th meeting.
At the 27th. Okay. Well, hopefully we will be able to see Miss Phyllis soon and send her our welcome into our LCAP family. And for our newer LCAP family that has already kind of been introduced and jumping in, again, welcome. We appreciate you. And we'll go ahead and move into our activity. And so I've been racking my brain trying to figure out, like, how do you engage virtually? Because I don't even know. And I feel like I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but I found a game called Would You Rather. And so I feel like that could be an easy way for us to engage kind of virtually and talk about the differences and similarities that we have. And so the way that this is going to go is I will ask a question of, would you rather this or would you rather that? And then I'm going to be requesting that all LCAP PAC members are unmuted. And so you can respond at will. And it's just kind of fun, you know, a fun way to kind of get to know each other's personalities and preferences as we are, you know, we want to lead with the value of community and continue to focus on building that those relationships, even though we're virtual. So before kind of kicking off, are there any questions about that? If so, feel free to raise your hand, or if you're off mute, feel free to ask. And if not, we'll go ahead and just jump in. All right, so first question. Would you rather live without the internet or live without air conditioning and heating?
These are cruel questions.
I know.
Okay, once again, this is Laura. Just as a reminder, if you're a PAC member, shoot, there's some, let's see. You'll need to physically raise your hand, although we don't have videos started on a lot of you. So I'm not sure what the workaround is for that. Maybe what I'll
Laura,
do.
the members have the ability to unmute themselves at will at this time.
Oh, okay, the panelists, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Trent. So if any PAC members would like to come off mute and answer that question, that'd be great.
So I'll go ahead and jump in. My air conditioning broke on Saturday, terrible. But I'll tell you what, I was able to survive and still show up through the internet. So I would prefer the internet and just take cold showers.
That's good. All right. Would anybody else like to come off mute?
Pamela's got her hand raised in the chat. Pamela, you're also not muted. Feel free.
You know, I would actually be more willing to get rid of the internet just because it's not, even though it has a lot of entertainment with it and that, you know, so on and so forth, it has a lot of nonsense, I guess is a good way to put it. And, you know, like I always tell my kids, it's a lot of waste of brain power. So I would rather keep my air conditioning and be rid of the internet and get all the news by the gossiping that should have been done years ago.
Fair enough. Anyone else want to respond to that before we move to the next question?
This is Amber. Beth also has a hand raised in the chat. I'm going to jump in and then pass it over to Beth. Along those same lines as Pam, I also feel like there's so much nonsense and so much heartache out there on the internet right now. I feel like I would be okay. Maybe I could even go for a break without the internet for some time would be great. But I could not, especially in Sacramento, live without the internet and live without air conditioning for long term.
Right. Amen. All right.
This is Chelsea. I would totally agree. I can live without the internet, but I would need heat in the winter for sure.
For sure. Thank you, Miss Chelsea. Miss Beth, you had a preference?
So I'm making the assumption that this is California only. So I'm gonna say I'd rather live with no internet, especially after the heat waves. I'd rather, you know, have no internet.
Wow, that's not what I expected. I'm the odd person out. Okay, thank you all. We'll go ahead and move to another question. Would you rather find your true love or a suitcase with $10 million inside? It's hard. Don't tell my husband I said that.
It looks like Jacqueline has her hand raised.
All right, Miss Jacqueline, would you rather? Which one?
True love.
Yes.
I'm close to 40 and still single. So yeah, true love. And then the other one would be the first one that you were talking about, no internet. I get involved with the gossip too easy.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Miss Jacqueline. And then I see Pamela, you have your hand up as well.
Yes. Okay. So that's a trick question. I love my husband dearly, and I love my home, but I could also, with $10 million, be quite content with my cats and turkey. So, you know, it just depends. Like, there has to be a little bit more detail into that genie in the bottle. Is it that I get to keep a wonderful man and then I just get to add $10 million? Or is it on the basis of I lose him and then I get a small island?
That's perspective.
With my cats.
Oh, that's funny. I think my depending on the day, my choice might change. An island sounds really good right now. Wonderful. Anyone else care to chime in on that one? And then quick time check too. Do we have time for maybe one or two more questions, or maybe just one?
Definitely one more question, Ms. Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you. So anyone have a response for the $10 million or true love before we move on to the last question? All right, final question of the night is, would you rather, and this one is hard too, have unlimited pizza for life or unlimited tacos for life? Win-win for me. Anyone else have a preference? I see Jacqueline and Pamela. I don't know. Let's go ahead and start with Miss Jacqueline because I saw your hand first.
Right.
Me?
Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Okay, mine would be tacos.
Yes.
I want tacos. Pizza, it's too heavy, but tacos are perfect.
Yeah, they can be a meal or a snack depending on your level.
Well, the question being, would we gain any weight from pizza or tacos?
I'm gonna say no, hell no, because why not go big?
I would do tacos because tacos you can turn into anything. You really can.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You can have pizza tacos.
You could have pizza tacos.
See?
But you can also have taco pizza.
That's right.
Ooh.
A good point.
It's the only Mexican I got. I could turn anything into a taco.
Spaghetti tacos, that was actually not terrible, surprisingly.
Oh, no, my kids invented that. That's very good.
Right?
Yes, it's a whole thing.
They're very
It must be a kid thing because mine did the same thing too. And then they decided to wear colanders on their head.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's interesting over here sometimes.
Right. Does anyone else want to chime in or weigh in on these important topics of the night?
Yes, I need somebody to come cook dinner for me, please.
Man, I'm so sorry to hear about your ankle. Like, seriously, we need to get some food. Have your feet.
I know.
All right. Well, thank you all for having a little bit of fun. It sounds like when we move to meet in person, we should have tacos and maybe or spaghetti tacos. I don't know. So thank you all.
Jackson and Jackson just joined and Kim joined. If you want to ask them a question, that'd be great.
For sure. Hey, Jackson. Hey, Miss Kim. We were playing a quick game of Would You Rather and asking hard-hitting questions of our PAC. If you would like to kind of chime in, this last question that we were working on is, would you rather have unlimited pizza for life or unlimited tacos for life?
Did you say a pizza for life? Oh, tacos.
Tacos, man. Tacos are it.
Yeah.
I think I'd agree. Probably tacos. You can just, there's more variations.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you all. Welcome. We'll go ahead and close this portion and move forward. Let me pull up. I'm kind of working off of 2 screens, even though the agenda's there. I have trust issues, I guess. Sorry. So we're going to go ahead and release the stage to Miss Lisa and Kristen at this point to talk about LCP.
Great. Again, thank you all for your patience as we learn this new format. I don't know if you can see me, but this is Lisa, and actually I want to thank you so much. Last meeting, we had met with all of you to discuss the learning continuity and attendance plan and provide information about the plan that was developed by San Juan Unified School District, as well as to inquire and ask all of you to provide questions that would be provided to the superintendent for his response. As a result of all of those questions, we received over 60 total, and want to thank you so much for those of you that contributed those questions through the breakout rooms, as well as individuals who provided questions after the breakout rooms. We did want to acknowledge that there were a few PAC members that were not able to participate in last LCAP PAC meeting. So Laura did reach out and actually have individual phone calls. So we ensured that we were able to capture every participant in the PACs information and ensure that if they had a question that we included in the superintendent's responses. So this evening, we're actually going to spend some time sharing back with you the information that you had asked about and wanted information about. Myself and Ms. Schnepp are going to discuss a couple of various items within the learning continuity plan that you had specific questions about and provide information to you related to that, as well as how that information found its way into the learning continuity and attendance plan. So again, we want to thank you for your participation and really want to encourage that kind of dialogue between the PAC and staff as we continue to work together through this process. I'd like to go ahead and begin first with our stakeholder engagement. So I know that I have rights to move my, there we go. So I just want to remind the LCAP PAC that the learning continuity and attendance plan is actually comprised of 8 different sections that, as a local control local education agency, AKA a school district, we are responsible for reporting on for this learning continuity and attendance plan. The 8 areas are up on the screen so that you can see the information that was reported in the learning continuity and attendance plan, as well as some of the areas in which all of you ask questions. So I'm going to begin first by sharing information about the stakeholder engagement process. As you know, that is a process that is connected very closely with the local control accountability plan, which is the responsible plan that we have as an LCAP PAC to advise and to help process. As mentioned before, this continuity plan is replacing that local control accountability plan this year. I know, lots of different names, but nonetheless, the California Department of Ed is still requiring stakeholder engagement to take place. So San Juan Unified took that stakeholder engagement expectation very seriously, and I wanted to just quickly report on that area. First and foremost, when the school closures took place, it became very clear and apparent that it was going to be important that we engage in conversation with our stakeholders to identify what those needs were going to be to support our students, sites, and families as we moved into this distance learning format. So initial outreach was conducted and surveys were shared with our various groups, including our parents, our teachers, our students. There was also a thought exchange that took place online and listening sessions. And those various forms of stakeholder engagement and feedback collecting helped to inform the design of our reopening plan, which is also a part of our learning continuity and attendance plan. So that information that was collected in the beginning of our end of our school year related to distance learning was incorporated in our continuity and attendance plan. And I wanted to quickly highlight what that particular feedback shared with us. And what was very clear that we received information on from our students, our families, and our schools is the importance of reducing the variability between the way in which our students were receiving instruction. We also heard from our community the importance of improving safety nets to ensuring that our students were being connected and contacted and supported through this process, and also that we needed to strengthen our home to school connections. That was very important as we were transitioning to the distance learning format, that we created that bridge to develop those ongoing relationships with our parents and our homeschool communications. And then also ensuring that we were supporting our practitioners, that those individuals who are providing instructions to our students had the proper supports and resources that they needed in order to be successful. So that first wave of stakeholder engagement, which, as you could imagine, had everything to do with just moving into the distance learning format, really yielded that kind of outcome, that importance of consistency, of supporting our students, of ensuring that our teachers had what they needed, and then also ensuring that we were building a relationship and a bridge between our schools and our homes with our families. And as we then moved into our current feedback efforts, which began pretty much mid-August, given the fact that this continuity plan was provided to us. Our template was given to us in August, and then we began school in the middle of August. And so we immediately began to connect with our various stakeholder groups as we moved into the school year to begin to collect information to help inform the continuity plan that you've all had access to and received information about. And those current feedback efforts, again, similarly had contact with our parents, our students, our teachers, our community members, and we ensured that we were adopting various models and doing outreach. We understand that not every family has access to a device or to Wi-Fi or to the internet. And so we ensured that we conducted one-on-one interviews with various groups within our communities so that there was access to individuals, including English learners, our African American families, our special education families, our refugee and newcomer families, our families who were of low-income students. So we looked at different ways in which we could make connections with families and students to collect their information rather than just accepting a survey online or doing virtual feedback groups. So we took that very seriously. In addition, we also had ongoing conversations with those groups so that we could make sure that the information that was collected in early spring to see if that information had changed as we began the school year. And as you could expect, that information did change. I want to highlight with this group that we spoke specifically with our District English Learners Advisory Committee. We spoke with yourselves, the PAC. We also spoke with our cultural brokers, of whom many of you are familiar with. They are groups of individuals who have been identified who serve various groups within our district who have connections and relationships with our parents and our students that we're hoping to make deeper communication connections with, and making sure that we're trying to raise the voice of those. So those cultural brokers help to bridge that. In addition, we met with our Special Education Community Advisory Committee, our Equity Collaborative, and various parent groups, including our African American families, our newcomer and refugee families, and our Spanish-speaking families. Student groups that were also included in this outreach were our Superintendent Student Advisory Council, our Students with a Voice, who represented a variety of high schools, and then also our foster youth students. I want to acknowledge that certainly because our school year began and given the timeline related to the continuity and attendance plan, we certainly would want to do broader outreach to ensure that our student voices are constantly being leveraged and raised in this conversation. So we're committed to continuing the dialogue, not only with our students, but with our parents and our community members and staff. But we wanted to acknowledge that with the time frame, we ensured to try to connect with our students as best as we could as they were organizing their local groups on the campus, as well as getting themselves settled for the school year. And then finally, I just wanted to share that as a result of the conversations that have taken place in this particular time, essentially between mid-August up to this point, we have seen a consistent theme that has come out of our students' feedback, our parents' feedback, and our community feedback. And that information specifically relates to the key themes around continued and increased tech support. As we began school, it's very evident that our students are getting settled, as are our families. And so that additional need that our parents and students are having around increased tech support is one thing that they did share as an important area of need, and one thing that was reported in our continuity and attendance plan for additional support. Also included in that is our classroom support. As our students are getting into their instruction, whether they're elementary students, middle or high school, that important need of having that classroom support from their teacher and what that looks like in this distance learning environment is definitely presenting itself. Specifically, information that was shared around the classroom support need is consistent use of same applications by teachers, clear expectations on assignments, due dates, teacher flexibility, and better organization of classes, the request for before and after school support, also allowing more independent work time in classes and providing more individualized teacher support, and then also providing or at least requesting the ability to utilize textbooks and possibly hard copy packets, as some families and students reported that they would appreciate having that tactile, that physical packet or information within their own hand to process. And then finally, the last key theme that came out of this round of stakeholder feedback was student engagement. Parents acknowledging that their students need that connection and that social interaction with their teachers as well as their students. And then students also recognizing that they needed that support. Student engagement was a very significant theme, and many students are feeling isolated due to the lack of engagement with peers. So that opportunity for our students to be able to potentially participate in virtual student clubs or other activities on campus is going to be incredibly critical to their engagement and their connection with their schools. Also providing student engagement opportunities such as work groups and virtual classes, clubs, and other extracurricular activities. Also, there was a real highlight around a desire to receive strategies for dealing with stress and anxiety. And then finally, also just that increased support around mental health and social emotional well-being, around counselor support and mental health support. So it's very much a consistent theme that we found within our various stakeholder groups, that at this time, those are the areas that really prominently presented themselves. And through the continuity plan, we will address those concerns and we will support those concerns of our students and families. And again, remind ourselves that this is a fluid process, so we understand that we'll need to continue to reconnect with our stakeholders, ensure that we are meeting their needs and adjusting as needed. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and leave this over to Ms. Schnepp, who will share some additional information related to the continuity plan.
So in looking at some of the questions that came up from our PAC committee and our DLAC committee, I think I want to jump right into mental health issues because you kind of ended with that, and I think it's a great segue. So one of the things that we asked that were asked about from the superintendent's response was around classroom strategies. How are we supporting students in class, and how are teachers supporting students in class with just that connectedness in the classroom and feeling like they're part of a community. And so in the continuity plan, we focused on some of the specific things that teachers are doing to create that connection. I think one of the things that's happening across the district is the use of listening circles and classroom communities. Some classes call them classroom circles, where students are able to come together and have really authentic conversation and focus on classroom climate, their own social emotional. Sometimes it's just a teacher saying, describe in one word how you're feeling today. And that really allows teachers to get a feel of how students are doing, and then respond at a later time if they see areas of concern. Within the classroom too, teachers are using trauma-informed practices. They're using responsive classroom techniques.
middle schools are looking at a curriculum called Why Try, which has 10 units around social emotional learning, really focusing on students' well-being. And then there's also something that they're trying called student mentoring, where they're really trying to connect peers so that peers can check in with each other and create that sense of connection within the classroom and across grade levels. Teachers are also, they're able to engage in a wide variety of professional development around many of the topics that I just spoke to. In addition, we have 9 hours of mandatory training around equity practices that include social justice standards. The social justice standards focus on identity, diversity, justice, and action. And so part of those social justice standards is finding ways to connect those 4 themes within our content area. And that's we're able to create a more safe environment for students when they can see themselves reflected in the curriculum and in the materials. The next thing I want to talk about then is a second section, which kind of ties in with, I think, social emotional learning as well. And that's a question that came up from our PAC committee and from DLAC, was around how do we give feedback around distance learning, and how do we do it in a way that's not going to be punitive or come back to in a retaliatory way with our teachers. And so one of the things we've really focused on in answering the questions that we provided you was the idea that we want that community feel between the teacher and the families and with the schools. So the safety net really plays a huge role in this. We want schools to be reaching out to get feedback from families so that they're able to address in a very timely manner some of the issues that are coming up. But we also want families to feel comfortable enough where they can talk to the teachers and say, hey, my student is struggling with this, and do you have suggestions? Or I just want you to know what's happening here at home. So being able to have that connection, we're going to continue to do surveys, and I know some families are probably surveyed out, but we are able to respond when we get that feedback and really look for some of those themes that our families are struggling with. And then we still have we do have the school family problem resolution, where if a family doesn't feel as if they are being heard or that their needs are being met, that is another avenue that families can use, and hopefully within that they can find some resolution. So I just wanted to highlight those 2 things around distance learning and then also social emotional well-being within the classroom. Next, we're going to have Vanessa Adolphson, who is the director for special ed. She's going to address one of the questions that came up, and so I'd like to turn it over to Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to join this evening. One of the questions that had come up is, how are children who have aides in the classroom being supported during distance learning? And so our instructional aides are supporting students virtually. They may attend whole class group instruction or for cueing and prompting during the lesson. They also may be moving into breakout sessions to support individual needs, small groups. Again, cueing and prompting different strategies for students, verbal gestures and things like that. Sometimes they may support doing a one-on-one lesson that a teacher is doing based on their IEP accommodations. Most of the time too, they may be assisting with a student's AAC device or assistive technology. Trying to make sure that I don't use any acronyms or also, they're supporting students with maybe graphic organizers or, again, other visual cues, basically helping the teacher working alongside collaboratively, ensuring that the student is staying engaged with the schoolwork. They also may be collecting data at times if a student is having any behavior, but also supporting preparation for materials and supplies. Mostly just supporting that teacher and the student to ensure that we're meeting the needs of their IEP accommodations. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. Next, we're going to have Roxanne Mitchell. She's going to share some of the questions that had to do with English language learners. Roxanne is our director for Office of Student Learning Assistance, OSLA. I can't remember what the L's for, Roxanne.
Learning.
Okay, I got it right. And she's also the current principal at Encina, so she's wearing 2 hats right now.
Yeah, yay, Encina. Hi, everybody. I am not going to turn my video on because I live very far away in the country and my internet is indeed unstable. So I'm getting a prompt here saying start your video, and I'm going to say no. Okay. So the question is about English language learners and the funding for English language learners. We have about 48 teachers who are funded from the local control funding formula. It's almost $6 million, and 42 bilingual instructional assistants. We have a program specialist and 3 district teachers who support K-8 to elementary teachers with the designated and integrated curriculum. We have district support that's funded by Title III that includes a teacher for newcomer students needing secondary school placement, mostly transcript analysis for refugee students coming in. We have 9 translators funded under that and an Excel interpreting contract. We also have dual immersion teacher assistants for Edison School that's funded under Title I. I do want to say that what's not in here is that normally during the spring and summer, we have multiple initial assessments of new students coming in that we need to determine if they're English language learners or not. We were not able to do those individual one-on-one assessments, and we will be starting that next week, but there are 1,078 to be determined. Out of those 1,078, approximately 718 are TKK, kindergarten kiddos. Almost always those students do test out. It's a very quick testing process. They do test out to be English language learners. That being the case, our total would be about 6,683, meaning that 70% of our English language learners are in the K-8 division. We do concentrate a lot of our professional development in the K-8 division, and we focus a lot on our reclassification at our secondary level. In addition, I will say that we also have our cultural brokers who are funded through the CalNew program. They work alongside our bilingual instructional assistants a lot with helping our families get onto the Google Classrooms or the various learning platforms, working very hard to do that. I think that that's it, unless there are other questions. Of course, as our numbers grow, and I will say that with our TBDs and our initials, we will be about 600 students over what we had last year. And as schools need additional assistance, whether it's through classes or professional development, we would certainly ask for more resources to be allocated if in fact we needed that. Done. Hello?
Thank you, Roxanne. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Ms. Shep, are there any other additional comments that you'd like to relate to the superintendent's responses?
I'm good right now. Thank you.
Great. So again, I just want to reiterate to the LCAP PAC and the visitors present that this particular portion of our meeting is related to the learning continuity and attendance plan. The information that is being shared with you today by our staff is as a result of the superintendent questions that you provided and wanted additional answers around. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to come back to the group and share that information with you so that we can ensure that the questions that you had were asked and answered, and that they have also been incorporated into our learning continuity and attendance plan. So at this time, with the presentation being completed, I'd like to go ahead and just remind our visitors as well as our PAC members that we're going to go ahead and move forward to receiving visitor comments around this item, and then moving to our PAC members. Again, the questions related that will be raised are related specifically to the local continuity and attendance plan and this portion of the item. If your item does not, if your comment or question does not pertain to that, we will go ahead and move forward to address those individuals who do have questions related to this item. So with that, Ms. Mulder, are there any visitors who'd like to make a comment?
Yes, if any of you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will identify you and call on you. We do not have any hand raised at this point in time from our attendees or our visitors.
Great, thank you, Ms. Mulder. At this time, we'd like to go ahead and offer the opportunity for our LCAP PAC members to go ahead and ask any questions of ourselves related to the superintendent questions that were raised and the continuity plan. As you can see on the screen, we have a 2-minute timer so we can ensure that we provide opportunity for every PAC member to share their question or concern. At this time, Ms. Mulder, are there any PAC members that would like to make a comment or question?
Are there any? I don't see any hand raised. PAC members, if you'd like to ask a question, just please unmute yourself.
Ms. Mulder, I do see Ms. Canton, Damaris Canton has her hand raised. So at this time, we'll go ahead and unmute Ms. Canton. She'll have 2 minutes to make her comment related to the learning continuity and attendance plan or comment around the superintendent's responses. Ms. Canton, go ahead.
Good evening. So I have a couple of concerns around the questions that were answered. There were some questions that superintendent said he would get further information, and I was wondering when we would get that information. Also, there were some concerns. I have some concerns about the resources that were included for parents in that document. Some of them, we have not listed many of the teen mental health agencies, programs, etc., that could help our students. We have not looked at some of the culturally based ones. In looking at that document or that just any of the stuff that the district has sent out for families to help, they're very sterile. They don't have, we need to make it so parents, it's user friendly. They're also very difficult to navigate. We had a lot of stuff about teaching teachers and PD for teachers. As I've said many, many times before, especially now in this pandemic, if we don't include community and parents, we're not going to make it out on the other side. We continue to give PD to our teachers, they take it back to their communities. They're not here on the weekends and in the evenings, and we're not helping ourselves by continuing to exclude the people that are here. So I'm just curious as to what we're going to do about that, because we keep talking about PD for them, and it's our students, and it seems that we should be a little bit more innovative. There are a lot of programs that are out that I haven't seen resources on in anywhere for San Juan that take advantage of some of the community activities. One being Crocker Art Museum. There are lots of programs that are available that we could be tapping our families into. We're not taking advantage of the resources that are available in the community that could help our students and our families, particularly around mental health. How we could have listed mental health things and not listed any of the teenage programs is kind of difficult to understand, and not to have listed some of the major African American programs, because it does matter where you come from. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Canton. Any other PAC members that would like to make a comment or a question or have a question?
Do not see any more hand raised. If you're a PAC member and would like to make a comment or ask a question, please take yourself off unmute and identify yourself.
Hi, this is Chelsea. So with 60,
that's probably my timer.
with the 60 questions, where can we find the responses to all of those questions, since we did not cover all of them in this presentation?
So, Ms. Kelly, they were actually provided to you in the email related to the agenda. We actually shared the superintendent responses with all of our LCAP PAC members on Friday. That gave our PAC members the specific question that was given to us by PAC members and DLAC members, and then the superintendent's response. If you'd like, I can have Ms. Mulder resend that information out to the PAC after this meeting.
I would appreciate that, because I just pulled up that email and I did not see an attachment.
Certainly, and the other, just as another item of information, it is actually also posted on our LCAP PAC or on our LCAP website. We have the versions of the Learning Continuity Plan published, as well as the superintendent responses in the event that anyone would like to review them. But we'll be happy to do that. Thank you. Ms. Mulder, any other questions?
I do not see anybody. Let me scroll the list, and if you don't have I can't see your hand raised, go ahead and come off mute, PAC members, if you'd like to talk.
I would like to get an answer as to when we'd be able to get the information that superintendent said he was gathering and would be able to give us. When can we expect it?
Certainly, Ms. Canton, I'll go ahead and take that information back, and I'll ensure that we get it to the appropriate staff member so that we can respond to your question. So we will do that prior to next PAC meeting. Thank you so much. Looks like Amber B has her hand up.
Yeah, I was scrolling through our notes here and the questions that were posed, and I didn't see a question that I asked. I think that it speaks to what we're seeing around some parents being technologically savvy and some parents not. I spoke in our last meeting to the times when I was in school, we would get mail, right? Snail mail is like a thing of the past, but given that there are so many expenditures within the district that I'm sure have been cut down on because social distancing is in place. I was asking in our last meeting if there could be any way that the budget is reallocated towards purchasing stamps and sending things out to families via mail, because not all parents are, keeping up with emails or have that internet access. We know is a big problem. And so I don't know, I apologize if it was in there, but I did not see that question nor response that would speak to that budget.
Amber, I have to acknowledge that is not a question that I recall having seen in the superintendent's question. So if that question was posed, I have to apologize and accept responsibility for not being able to get you that answer. However, I would be happy to go ahead and follow up with staff to address that question and provide that response prior to our next LCAP PAC meeting. A very good point, and one that I think we have to recognize, that there are families and students that, electronic communications may not be the primary mode of information sharing. So again, my apologies for not having seen that question, but I will definitely follow up on that. Thank you.
Next we have Heather.
Hey, yeah, thank you, Amber, for bringing up that question. I had a similar question earlier and it had it had fallen out of my head. And so your question actually reminded me. Similarly, I was thinking about some of the funding allocations like that historically the district has invested in. A good example would be school resource officers or law enforcement representation on campuses. and just, you know, an attunement with the culture and climate of society, and of course schools being a microcosm of that. And on the same vein of like transparency in regards to reallocating funds that have been used in ways that maybe are not relevant in today. That was something I had a question on around, you know, where would we find or see or have voice in how some of those funds would be better utilized for community support, prevention, and intervention, with emphasis, of course, on mental health.
Ms. Gonzalez, I appreciate that question. And I know that part of what our responsibility will be in bringing information back to the PAC is in upcoming months, we will be talking about presenting a budget overview for parents, and that information that you're inquiring about, I would imagine would be represented in that plan. And so I would definitely ensure that we're documenting that question so that we can also make sure that we follow up on it and have more information related to it. Obviously, as we're talking, we know that, you know, the needs of our students and our schools and our communities are still being identified, but definitely one item that we can ensure that we bring up in future PAC meetings. But also just to remind everyone, we have an agenda item later on down in this meeting about future agenda items. So I'd recommend we could also bring it up at that time. So thank you so much. Looks like we have Ms. Colbert.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so I'm scrolling through. Oh, wait.
I'm gonna mute this.
I know how it'd be. Okay, so I'm scrolling through and I'm looking. It's okay. And I'm looking and I'm reading. Okay, so regarding how are we reaching out to families who are affected by COVID? And I know that, of course, protocol, you guys have social emotional well-being of our students and staff, and, you know, pamphlets and posters and everything else. But it is not, I don't know how to say it. And it's really frustrating me over the last couple months, because it's like slipping past everybody's head, and it's like right there. The answer's right there, simply right there. I guess it's because I've been working nursing for so long. But it's still not hitting or taking effect on just common sense with families, period, because I've been watching everybody's actions and they're still doing the same thing and they're still complaining about the same thing. And it's like everybody's still on different levels of just I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so even Nora got upset just this past weekend when they had the church gathering at the state capitol. I'm like, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, how many people from San Juan School District was a part of that? And knowing we're trying to get back to school, and Nora's like, well, there isn't the numbers just going down for us to get back to school. Why would they do things like that? And so it's just like, just common sense is just not, it's not kicking in, and it's just really irritating me really bad. And so it's just when you guys are saying that pamphlets and stuff is online, people are not looking at that. I have to print stuff out and just hang it in my complex for people to understand and people to see that. So if I'm doing that in my own apartment complex, who knows what's going on around town for our school district? That's the main thing. And so what are we really doing for our kids to get back to school? I see Twin Rivers is already doing a sputum test for staff and everything else. Have we, well, yeah, students too, Nora's seen that too, but have we stepped out and engaged with the laboratory to do the same thing too? So it's just like, what's the next step? Because it's just I'm asking main priority questions, and I'm not getting an answer. It's like, I got to go find the answer, or I see another district or other people is doing that. And I'm like, whoa, y'all just leaving me hanging. So I don't know. I'm just so irritated right now. It's just common sense stuff. And so it's like, I need to really sit down and meet with you guys one-on-one or something after the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Colbert, for your comment. We appreciate that. Looks like we have Ms. Canton's hand raised.
Thank you, Ms. Borrego. To Ms. Colbert's point, I think that's kind of what I was hitting on in terms of the sterility of the documents that come out of the district. They may look good and they may meet the legal criteria that you need to put out, but you're missing the mark on getting to the people you're trying to meet with and trying to get things across to. So it's not always, sometimes you have to meet with those that you don't want to meet with to get where you need to go. And this would not be, there's not a better time than for people to start over and try to build community, because we're failing our families. You may think from your perspective, but we're out here in this community and we're hearing and seeing and knowing what's going on. And half of the parents that you're trying to reach are not getting the help, and the students as well. There needs to be some opportunities for our students to have some voice in this. I can't believe that with all that we have and the resources that we have, that we can't come up with some ways to go grassroots and go back to getting information out. There was a time when we didn't have computers. We didn't have this document. We were word of mouth. And speaking for myself, in the African American community and the Hispanic community, we are word of mouth people. We meet and we talk, but we don't even have the answers because you guys don't share. So we have to do a better job on both ends.
I appreciate that, Ms. Canton. And again, as someone who is helping to lead the stakeholder engagement aspect of this work, I welcome the opportunity to set up time to have a conversation so that we can absolutely do that local grassroots effort and connect with all families that have the concern that you're sharing. So I look forward to that opportunity to do that very soon. So thank you for sharing that.
And next we have Kim Brown. This is Laura. I apologize for that timer. Obviously I need to find a new timer, so I am switching over to my timer on my cell phone. So Kim, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Oh, sure. So I have 3 questions and they may be answered easily. So the first one is about the class participation. I wanted to know, is that being taught in the equity training? Because I had an incident that came up, and I'll share that with you, but I want to know, is that a part of the equity training, is actual class participation? Okay.
Go ahead and do all, go ahead and share all of your questions, yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is about ensuring school nutrition for families who have qualified for the free and reduced meals. How are we ensuring that those families are receiving school nutrition? And then the third question is about attendance. I wanted to know, what are we doing currently to make sure that the school attendance reflects the students who have been trying to get in to Zoom and unable to? How is that reflecting upon those families and those students? And so I'll tell you why I'm asking the question. My son has been in every single one of his Zoom meetings, with the exception of ones that he could not get into at all. And so I've been going back and forth with the school for him, my granddaughter. They fixed them, but there was just so much that I had to look through his Zoom, look through emails, look through Google Classroom for notes to show them what he had tried to do and that he was getting in, and my granddaughter and my baby. And so there's a huge issue with attendance just at the 2 schools that my children attend. And then with the class participation, I asked that question about the equity training is because an incident arose with my daughter. She's just in kindergarten, and she tried to raise her hand 5 days of school where she has Zoom twice a day, five days. She tried to ask, raise her hand to participate. And out of those 10 Zooms, not once was she called on. And so I had to ask her teacher, was she aware that she had done that? And so we had a very long conversation. I believe it was healthy, but I believe that she's not aware of some of the things she does, and she only has 3 African-American students in her class.
Thank you, Kim. That was that's time. Thank you. I do not see any more hand raised. Caroline, it looks like you're calling in from your phone. So if you've got a question, you can hit *9.
Thank you for checking on me. I have no questions. I appreciated all the responses that were provided.
Okay, thank you. Just didn't want to leave you out.
I have one more quick question. You know, as we're talking about, you know, all of the resources available and services available in particular, and kind of, I think, you know, Damaris, Stephanie, you know, folks have kind of touched on, you know, the access points. And I think, yeah, I would want to emphasize that point of concern and the consideration of a multi-tiered modality in which to ensure that the information is reaching folks and meeting community where community is at. I had a whole other thought, and that was the more important one, and I promise you it disappeared. So I'm going to leave it there and then jump back in when it comes back to me. So I apologize.
This is Chelsea. I have a question.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
The question I asked in our last meeting regarding whether the district is considering, when we return to in-person instruction, whether the district is considering teaching classes outdoors. And the response mentions that if a school district has facilities to hold classes outdoors, they may do so. But that really isn't my question. My question really is there any sort of district-wide effort to have a conversation with teachers about the possibility of returning and teaching outdoors? Is this even on the table? That's really my question.
Right. Mr. Kern, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. The conversations are about what it would look like to return. I don't think whether we were to return inside or outside right now would make a difference to getting an agreement. So I you know, if we thought that was something that would significantly put us in a position, but I don't think that would make a difference whether we're inside or outside.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith, would you like to speak?
Sure. I wanted to address some of the questions around class participation and then ways that we're supporting teachers with those equitable practices within the classroom. We are engaging in 9 hours of mandatory equity training, really focused on creating culturally responsive classrooms. So that is something I think we can bring back throughout the year to touch on, to share maybe some of the highlights that we're seeing in the classroom. And so I just wanted to address that this is something that was really important. Mr. Kern at the beginning of the year definitely created opportunity for us to have listening sessions and to hear from our families. Where are the struggles and where can we lean in? So within the equity training, there's going to be options available too. And a lot of our teachers are engaging in those listening sessions or listening circles within the classroom and those class participation activities where teachers can do the check-in and build that classroom climate. So I think those are being addressed. We have heard the struggles with attendance was the next thing I wanted to address. Teachers have a lot that they are being asked to do right now, and we are working through with our SJTA partners different ways that we can help with gathering attendance. And I hear the frustration around not being able to log into Zoom or not being able to get in. So, you know, that is something that we've been getting feedback from families and really trying to address some of those issues. Authentication with Zoom was frustrating. And it seems as if a lot of those issues have been put to rest. We're working through those. So I think part of the community building that we talked about is trying to give space and grace for our teachers and our families as we navigate. And that's why I really appreciate what Damaris was saying around those grassroots efforts and trying to find ways where we can hear what the frustrations are from families and then try to respond to them as best we can.
Okay, and with attendance though, if your child is participating, they are on the Zoom and they're still being marked as absent, have you guys had a lot of complaints about that?
No,
Because that are the problem.
That's concerning to me because we can mark attendance in different ways. If a student's not able to attend a Zoom, but they're able to log into Seesaw or into Google Classroom and complete assignments, that counts as attendance as well. So I would encourage you to reach out to your school site. And if you're not able to get resolution, I'd love it if you could come, reach out to our district office as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I just want to make sure, Cam, that would be me, Lisa, because our office also has concerns. So just for the general group, if there are concerns that you're having that are not being resolved at the school site level, please contact me specifically and our office will work with you to have those questions addressed and work with you with the school site.
Okay. And then the last question that I had asked was ensuring that that students are getting school nutrition to the students who typically would qualify.
So we do have the USDA starting September 8th has created a waiver so that all students ages 0 to 18 are now able to get free lunch or free breakfast. You get up to 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch. So that's very exciting news for us. We're still trying to find ways. What we're noticing is because kids are starting school at 9 o'clock, it's hard for them to get to their campuses often to get the food. So we're trying to look at different ways we can make food more accessible so that students can get the meals that they need. So that's something we're still looking at.
Kristen, let me add
That's
to
what I
that
was
as
talking
well.
about. Because at our particular school, they had put the notice out that the cafeteria was open, but only very few students showed up.
Thank you. I think Mr. Kern wanted to address that.
Yeah, and we expanded a number of our schools to also serving. We were just doing the mornings. We're going to the afternoon as well. But we are the numbers of students who qualify for free and reduced, and the number of students who are getting meals it's significantly less. That this is a problem that is not, everybody in the state is facing it. So I think what would be encouraging for us is if you believe there are other ways that we could get meals to students or ideas, share those with us. And if they're within ways that we could do, we would look into those. But it is, I mean, we're serving, significantly less than the number of kids who qualify.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. Heather, I see your hand raised, and then Stephanie, I think your hand was raised, but it's lowered now. So let's go to Heather first, and then we'll go to Stephanie.
Yeah, I remembered what I was going to say. So sorry about that. It was, again, specific to mental health. And honestly, I'm going to be focusing a lot on mental health because it's so real. And I don't think I have to tell you all. I've been made aware of 2 different San Juan students in the last maybe 2 to 3 months who have committed suicide, one recently this week. And so it had me really thinking about how are we evaluating or assessing the mental health of students and ensuring, and I think that Damaris might have touched on, culturally relative supports, and then even looking beyond clinical supports and supervision and ensuring that we're bridging gaps to even be thinking about, holistic community approaches. So that's one of my questions, just kind of how are we getting that word out there, making those evaluation, and then in the event of a critical incident, attempt, injury, or death, what is San Juan's response and how are we wrapping around the family and the students who are being impacted by those losses?
Ms. Gonzalez, what I'd like to suggest and offer, given that I 100% agree that mental health and social emotional well-being is such a critical part and aspect of what's going on right now, that you know, with the LCAP PAC's interest, we could invite our staff from the multi-tiered system of supports who provides that direct service to our students and families to provide more information to this group, to specifically address those questions and give you a better idea of what kind of resources are being provided. There is a great deal of extensive support being offered and coordination, and so you know, no one like the direct support supervisor and director to provide you with that content. So I'd like to offer that to the PAC.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
And Heather and Lisa, I would say as well, the other thing that we could provide is when that happens, what the response looks like, because we have a very detailed response in terms of the counseling and how we get that information out to students and what we offer when those situations happen. I can share with you my Superintendent Students Advisory Council that I met with a week and a half ago. Just really the social emotional supports are their #1 priority as well. It was just really impressive to hear all these young students talk about the things that they're missing and that are affecting them. Lori Vine, who I work closely with that committee, has set up a meeting with a whole group, with our district lead counselor, as well as the rest of the counselors, with the group of students to say, okay, what are the other things that we could be doing along the way? Because again, the kids in real time, they've got a lot of great suggestions and information to share with us. But I think Lisa's suggestion about coming back with because that issue right there in and of itself could be an entire, you know, evening's worth of conversation.
That's fair, right? Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We have Stephanie. Would you like to talk? I noticed you lowered your hand, and then after Stephanie, we have Damaris.
Hi, this is Nora. Wait, this is Nora. Lisa, Kent, and Heather. Is it okay if I email you so we can schedule a meeting later on?
Absolutely, we would love that. Well, I say I would love that, Miss Nora.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll look forward to that email. Make sure that you include Laura Mulder, as she's the individual who coordinates our schedules, but absolutely.
Okay.
And Miss Nora, I could also share with you my cell number if you ever want to just connect on any reason in the interim as well. So I could shoot it to, I think your mom may have it, but otherwise I'll tap in. You'll get it.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Nora. Damaris, would you like to?
Yes, the fact that we have food available, and we have food deserts within San Juan, and we're not able to get the word out that there's food and get the food to the children is a prime example of the two different paths that this school district is taking. We're not in the community the way we need to. I was on the website today. I saw nothing about the food being available to kids 0 to 18. It's not there. If it was there, it was hard to access. It wasn't readily available. We can't keep not including folks and expect the word to get out. So that's one point. And then the superintendent just spoke on meeting with his student advisory committee and then coming back with the counselors and some other folks. Again, I would include community, because what you hear when kids say something and what somebody else hears may be a little bit different. And if we don't put everything on the table, we'll still come out with not all that we need to do to help these kids. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Canton. Beth, would you like to come off mute and ask a question?
Yes, so in regards to mental health and what has happened this week, I was wondering if there are any plans for counseling and to address what happened.
Are you speaking specifically at that school, or Beth, or share a little bit more?
Yeah, specifically at that school.
Yeah, that all of that has been communicated. And as I said, we have, when an issue like that happens, we have an entire response team that goes out and works with staff to communicate that. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Do you know if any of the San Juan School District will be in attendance at the community-led candlelight vigil that's happening at El Camino Friday at 8 o'clock? I asked that just because I know that sometimes there are systems barriers. And so kind of full circle to Damaris's point, how can we bridge with community for community to show up outside of the parameters that is typical for education systems?
Heather, I'm not aware of at this time. I would need more information, and then I probably, that's something that is, I would say, more directly to school sites involved with the counselors and others.
Okay.
I would also welcome, you know, Damaris or Heather or any of the members, that as we again continue to develop our strategy around stakeholder engagement and reaching out into our communities, that that we have conversations related to how we can improve that system of support and ensure that we are having open communications. I hear you mentioning community. I hear you mentioning engaging with and inviting those groups into our work, and I would love to continue that conversation and offer ways that we can do that collaboratively. So please know that again, we can set up time to have a conversation and build a strategy around that, because it is critical to the health and well-being of our students and community.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely not, it's not a knock on the district. It's just recognizing that there's a continuum of support beyond what would be reasonable to expect or require of the district, especially in this time. And just looking really innovatively and intentionally at how, you know, the folks that we are partnered with and the folks that have the culture brokers and all those folks that you all are very versed in and working very closely with. How do we create that pipeline of continued care beyond the, you know, I guess, reach or parameters of what you all as an educational district could and should be expected to provide. So yeah, I think that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Chelsea, I see your hand raised.
Oh, thank you so much. I have two questions. One is really sensitive, and I totally understand that. But are there any conversations ongoing about teachers recording their lessons? And I ask this question because not only from a personal perspective, I myself, we've had several days in our own home where we've had trouble getting on the Zoom and had technology issues, and it would have been very helpful to be able to let my student go back and watch the lesson, and it would have helped him not feel so behind, which then of course elevates his frustration level, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just wondering if that is a conversation that's being had. I can imagine that a lot of families are having that problem, especially if you have multiple children trying to access the internet at the same time. For various reasons, having trouble getting logged on at the exact moment that you're supposed to be on, but could potentially watch it at a later time during the day.
So that is a conversation we've had and we continue to have.
Okay.
It is, you know, we can't mandate that, but it is something that as we continue to hear these types of concerns, we bring forward.
Mm-hmm. And my second question is, so back to recording, I encourage you to continue to have those conversations because I think you could really help a lot of particularly low-income students who are having trouble. And my second question is about, to Damaris's point about nutrition, I think it was Damaris who mentioned, you know, it is a statewide problem where the number of students are not accessing school meals that they used to, the numbers are not adding up to the numbers that districts used to have. But I have heard of some school districts deploying buses to apartment complexes, for example, to distribute meals in that way. And I'm wondering if San Juan is considering something like that.
so that is something we couldn't even have done before they made the change that they did in terms of at the federal level. We had started to have some discussions about that. And I had heard as well that there were some districts that are doing that. I actually asked the question, where is that happening? And I did not get a response. So Chelsea, if you know districts that are doing that, I would love to get more information on that, because I haven't gotten the specifics on that. Similarly heard, but didn't get any specifics. So prior to this week, we couldn't have done that because of the federal guidelines. And we were, and right now the feds only relaxed the guidelines through the end of this calendar year. And so beyond that, so that the election will make a difference in where we end up with that as well, is my guess.
Yes, I will. I'll ask my colleague if we're aware of which school district is doing the busing. I would think, though, that even if you had to identify eligibility, that you would be able to distribute the food at an apartment complex via a bus with identifying the students by name, right?
Well, we don't have to do the eligibility anymore. I think there are some other factors that are coming into play in terms of just crowds, groups, contacts, bringing people together in a close area. So there are other factors that I think there's some details even about that we would need to. There are a lot of logistics that go into decisions we have to make, including things that have to do with risk management and other things that I would like to know where this is happening and some of the other hurdles maybe that we're seeing that they've overcome.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. We have time for one last question. Looks like Damaris, you have your hand raised.
I didn't have a question. I was just going to say, Superintendent, it appears that Robles School District is doing kind of a Meals on Wheels type of thing. So they're rolling it out that way. Rave Mobile Safety has a blog that's talking about school buses that are delivering meals to kids that are out of school. There's something on LA. There appears to be some good information. I just Googled it.
All right, Damaris, I thank you for that. It would be hard to compare the first district you said, as I think they're only a single school district. But if there are larger districts, we'll look into that, because Robles is, I think, a single school district. I've actually talked to their superintendent about what they're doing. It is a little different situation than what we're dealing with, but I appreciate that.
But the concept can be blown a little bit. It's taking that small thing and multiplying it. That's what community is about. It's that little plan for just this one block, and then moving it to the next block and the next block and the next block. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will go ahead and move forward to committee business. Lisa, is that you or is that Heather?
That would be Heather, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to go ahead and open up the committee business. One of the items that we wanted to kind of discuss was the meeting structure. We want to be mindful of the fact that, of course, everything is different, and meeting on Zoom, and also, as you see, bullet point 2 is also pertaining to communication. But we wanted to really open up the floor to talk about our current meeting structure, to get feedback from our LCAP family, to see, you know, ideas, what's working, what isn't, what do you need more of, what would you like to see. So that's one point. I guess we can kind of start there and unpack a bit. If you all have thoughts, ideas, or considerations, then we can move on to communication as well.
And yeah, Ms. Gonzalez, I just want to mention that for this item, myself and Ms. Mulder will be taking your information. So any comments that are made by members, we'll go ahead and collect that information as feedback. So that's what we'll be doing in this portion of the meeting.
Okay, I see. Damaris, is your hand raised for this portion of the meeting, committee business?
Yes, I would like us to look at the possibilities of bylaw changes that would include having a student as part of the leadership of this committee. And whether or not we can, if we can, how that would happen. I just would like.
Great, thank you.
Damaris, I just want to acknowledge that I know that that was an item that was on last year's PAC agenda conversation for the committee. So I want to acknowledge that it remains on this topic as well. And we hope to introduce that into the next meeting. So good timing, good timing.
Okay, so if no one else is gonna.
It looks like we've got, is that you, Kim? Kim?
Yes.
Okay.
I just had a really quick comment. I had a very difficult time getting on today, and I don't know if any other parents had the same problem, but if there's anyone who's missing from this meeting, I'm just curious if it's because they ended up getting on with their kids' Zoom account. So I had to go from my cell phone to my iPad to a whole nother computer just to get on today because it continued to go to my children's Zoom meeting. And so I was in the meeting with everyone at the beginning, but it was under attendees. And even though I kept raising my hand back and forth, I wasn't acknowledged to at least even let someone know, hey, it's me here, shift me over. So I don't know if anyone else has had those problems. So I just wanted to make the committee aware of it.
That's really good input, Ms. Kim. I mean, access is an equity issue, right? And so those are the types of things that we definitely want to be aware of and discussing and considering as we're trying to create the most inclusive community space, while also protecting, of course, security and all the other things that need to be considered through the bylaws. So that's real, and that's super frustrating. That's super frustrating. Sorry that happened.
Hi, it's Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi, I just also wanted to comment how, just for me personally, the way that that we're scheduling these meetings at the end of the day, which I know is how we did it in person, but I just feel like it just feels like extra difficult to concentrate at this time of day with, you know, between kind of doing the work from home plus helping the kids with all their schoolwork. I don't know that, you know, a morning time would work for everyone. You know, every time that one picks has a problem with it, but I just wanted to let you guys know that for me personally, it just feels like a lot to ask people then to, you know, to have their full day and then sit here from, you know, 6 to 8:30 as on top of it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Carolyn. That's real. I will kind of piggyback on that and say that I found myself having a bit of kind of Zoom fatigue, right? Because I know a lot of us are on Zoom all day for all of the other things. And I have found myself also wondering, is it possible to maybe shorten the meetings a bit? Because I tend to go crazy internally, right? And there are competing priorities, especially now with supporting our babies and families.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe even a weekend option might be something we could do. I know we've done some weekend activities before when we did kind of all-day trainings and other things like that, but just something to think about.
Miss Lisa and Laura, are those things that we can consider and kind of explore and look to?
Yeah, I probably, absolutely. I think what I would, what's running through my mind and, you know, being still new to all of you in this particular role, I would imagine that we could probably put together a survey, working with the chair to, you know, to ask a few questions like what are being brought up. And of course, if there are additional comments that some of the other PAC members are going to be making, perhaps we can construct a survey. Because to your point, what's true is this is not your normal school year. So perhaps we can absolutely work together to send some information out and get your feedback, because we do want to be responsive and understand that. So yes, we can definitely look into that, certainly before the next meeting. or at least be prepared to maybe make that part of our conversation as a group.
Thank you, Caroline. Are there any other questions? Do not see any hands raised. If I've missed you, just feel free to come off mute.
We can go ahead and jump to member communication. And if anyone has any additional input regarding structure and just, feedback, thoughts, or considerations, then we could absolutely, make sure that we capture that and, look at how we can make revisions to be responsive in this season and minimize access barriers and maximize our time. Regarding member communication, a bit of context behind that kind of ties back to a lot of our conversation, honestly, in this last portion around communication looks different for everyone. And, right now we're kind of predominantly leaning into, email reminders, things of that nature. And in some of our conversations, we wanted to bring this dialogue to the LCAP PAC and committee and kind of explore, what is the best modality of communicating, that could ultimately result in some sort of survey as well. But what is your preference and all of that? I see Ms. Kim, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to know, do we have the capability of using text for like follow-up for emails to let people know that there's a notification in your email, or for reminders from meetings? Do we have that capability?
That's a great question.
That is a great question, Kim, and certainly something we can research. I know because our bylaws currently have us governed as the Brown Act. I think I would just have to double check because again, I'm still learning some of the governance components, but I know Laura's writing that question down, so we'll look into it. And so just so we're clear, are you suggesting that when a communication via email goes out to the PAC, you'd also perhaps like to receive a text that says information is being shared with you, please check your email? Correct. Okay, yeah, we'll be happy to look
for the meetings, like notification, like a text that goes out and says, reminder, you have a meeting tomorrow morning, or reminder, your meeting starts at blah, blah, blah time today. Just some form of reminder, because right now it's like the information overload, and I'm getting so many emails. And I mean, I know just from one teacher, and I have my kids, there's 13 teachers just for me. Yeah. And so I'm getting about, 60, 70 emails a day or every other day.
Oh my goodness. Definitely we can look into that and provide that clarification. We could arrange something to make it a little bit easier. So that's great feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Pamela, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, actually it wasn't really a question as much as a suggestion. Most parents have probably used the Remind app. We already have it in our system, and it is something that teachers use all the time. I know that when we were in gymnastics, my kids' coaches would use it all the time, and it's something simple and easy that can be set up to remind us who are involved. Just a nice simple, and it shouts it out. And if you want to add documentation that needs to happen, or attach an email that needs to occur, or anything like that, it can be, or website or whatnot, it can be done. So that might be, as she's asking that question, that might be something you look into, because it's free and it's something that most parents use anyway.
That's incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, there's still a lot of learning going on. So all this information is really helpful as we kind of try to streamline the way that we all communicate with each other. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Ms. Creason, you have your hand raised. Would you like to come off mute and talk?
Yes, I was going to suggest Remind app too. So I second that last comment, and also want to just say, once you set it up, it'll also text you. So you don't necessarily have to keep going to the app to get the reminders. It'll text you too. That's it.
Thank you. We have Stephanie and then Damaris.
You guys, I know we're all frustrated. I just want not even have a question. I just want to let you guys know that all of you guys are in my prayers. That we won't be frustrated. We just get through this and figure out something. And so I just want to say you're the best. That's it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Damaris, would you like to
Hey,
speak?
Laura, I was just going to say that Remind 101 app is a great app. Would it be something that we could look into, that maybe someone on one of our students could be the one that communicated with Laura and was sending that out to us, or gave them a little bit of a larger role in that, and perhaps just reaching out to our students and finding out what are the best ways for us to get this information to you and your family. I know we're talking about it in terms of our meetings, but I'm saying overall to use that particular mode. Thanks.
Thank you, Damaris. We can definitely look into that.
I would be especially interested in hearing from our students as well, because with consideration, of course, of just, you know, preferences and there are generational and cultural gaps. Specifically for our students, do you all have a preference on, you know, how you would prefer to engage and receive information for the purpose of LCAP PAC? Do you all have any thoughts on what makes sense for you?
Yeah, I could touch on that. This is Kenan. I'm a student and a part of the LCAP. But so I usually use email for a lot of my communication, but I also do prefer text if it's possible, especially through Remind 101. So either one works for me.
Thank you, Kenan. Jackson, how about you?
Yeah, so I know that at Rio, I get a lot of emails every day. Every time a teacher posts something to Google Classroom, I get an email. Teachers are constantly sending update emails, and then I'm also getting emails from other things such as LCAP. And I know especially when information comes in multiple smaller emails that they just tend to get buried in my inbox along with all of the other school related things. But when I get a text or a phone call, usually it's much more at the top of my mind, I guess.
Thank you, Jackson. Kenan and Jackson, that's really great feedback. Thank you. We have two more students online. Beth and Elnora, would you like to comment as well?
Hold on, she's walking this way.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Shall we move forward? Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. Are there any last comments or questions on member communications?
I think for me, I will just be transparent and say that I, you know, as a parent and of you know, someone who's, you know, working still full time and all of the different pressures and stresses and navigating COVID, I have been trying to be mindful on being kind of like hands off to not overload folks with like information or communication and all of that. To the point of phone calls, would you all like more phone calls, like from whether it be from San Juan or from the LCAP chair and co-chair? In the in-between meetings, just maybe checking in or sending gentle reminders or asking questions? Would that be something you all would receive and desire?
Yes.
Who said that? Was that Kim?
Yes, it was.
I'll call you. Okay, that's helpful, because I think for me, I'm hesitant because I know we all have so much on our plate, but I am very relational, and I'm a pick up the phone and call someone or send random texts. And I think for me, it's just I would really want to get consent from folks that is in fact what is wanted, right? Rather than kind of bombarding folks with random calls that are not wanted.
I'm
and
fine
Ms.
the way me and Laura communicate. So the way me and Laura have it, it's all good with me because we stay in contact. So she just lets me know when the email comes through. So I'm good.
Love that. Yeah, we thank you, Laura. You're the best. You keep us all
Thank
together.
you. And with that, that concludes committee business. Let's move on to future agenda items.
Yeah, we want to be intentional on, you know, this is a collaborative effort, and, you know, want to be mindful of getting committee voice and having committee choice in the direction that we go in. So we want to solicit input from you all to see, you know, one of the conversations we had in our planning meeting was, you know, what kind of, you know, district programs or representatives in relation to LCAP or some of the topics that we're discussing would you want to maybe have come and present, or what kind of items do you all want to really hone in on as we move this work forward? I will say as well, if you can't think of anything tonight, or if you would prefer to kind of chew on it as well, you're welcome to shoot at any point any kind of agenda items or things to consider for LCAP PAC. Tom and I are here to support and serve, and are in this role. However, this is a group, like it belongs to all of us. We want to be intentional on being inclusive.
Thank you, Heather. Damaris, I saw your hand raised, but then you lowered it. Would you like to comment on future agenda?
I did lower it, Laura, because Heather said, well, you can chew on it for a little while, but that I want to make sure we do, and I keep asking about this. We hire some of these community-based organizations, and I've asked umpteen times if there was an opportunity for LCAP members to attend any of those sessions or get to know the group or whatever, so we can weigh in on it. You ask us to vote on stuff to give money to these things, but we don't get the feedback about how they're working, what they're doing, what are the numbers, is it worth our money? So I would like that when we go forward, we have a little bit more just vetting, you know. I don't know how else to say it. I know what looks good to one may not look good to another. And if we have the data, we can decide. We don't have to just keep doing it because it's available. Let's just look at it. Is it really helping our families and our kids? So that would be my thing, more involvement in those kinds of things, opportunities to hear about that.
So what I'd like to recommend, just to circle back on that, because I know that there was a comment around interest around mental health support, in particular about recent incidents that occurred with students. So what I heard is that one of the items that the LCAP PAC is interested in hearing about is our multi-tiered system of support, as they are the direct department that supports that area for our students. But to Damaris's point, and perhaps Damaris, you can share specifically if you're meaning community member organizations, I mean, call them out, or if it's directed or guided by a particular department, and we can certainly help to coordinate that presentation.
I have asked several times about the UCAN and how we've done it. It's set up in a way where our kids, we didn't get our bang for our money. They decided which kids could attend. At the end of the day, we pay for a lot of kids that weren't able to take part in it. We have Improve Your Tomorrow. I've heard some people say it's a great thing. Let's look at it. Let's talk about it, because what looks good, and I don't know how to say this culturally correct, but what looks good to white folks as being the way to help children of color in poverty may not look like that for us. Just because it's led by people of color does not mean it's doing what we need it to do to get our kids where they need to be. And I find it really frustrating to have some of our issues be with children of color, and because you don't want to talk to people, because you don't like the way they talk to you or the way they come across, that you don't bridge those gaps so we can help our kids. Because I'm willing to sit down at the table with anybody to help our kids, and I feel like we need to have it on all sides. because it is about the kids. It's not about my attitude. We come to this table. We come because we care. We don't get paid for this. We don't get anything outside of we're keeping our neighborhood and making sure that our kids are okay. So include us. We have the vested interest here because everybody else goes home. You guys are in your communities. I'm sitting in San Juan community right here. So that would be it.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear, and that's duly noted. So I appreciate the clarification. That gives me more direction on your request. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Kim, would you like to comment on future items or future agenda items?
Actually, this was for the last item, but I wanted to say, Damaris, I completely agree with you. But I just had a real simple question. Is there a way for us to comment on Zoom? Because I can't find that link. And I just think for time's sake, I'd like to have that functionality on here. Because it's typically on Zoom.
Kim,
So
are
I'm
you
just
talking
wondering.
about the chat box?
Yes. Is there
Okay.
a way?
I
Do we not have that option through this platform this way? Or
so we can certainly bring back your question, Kim, but at this point, we're making sure that we're capturing the conversations because you're all PAC members and we're recording it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but we can certainly make note of your question for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber.
Yeah, I think my comment is more so along the lines also of what Damaris was just saying, and really a theme that Heather pointed out earlier is that community is missing in terms of the way that we're reaching out and connecting with the community. And something that I was just thinking about, you know, I held my tongue on the question of do we want more emails? Do we want more messages and calls and all of that? I'm someone who is on the side of no, particularly when it comes to downloading a new app, right? Like, not to yuck anyone's yum, but the Remind app, that's something else that I have to download. It's going to take up space on my phone. It's going to be something else that I have to be intentional about looking at. And similarly, like Class Tag is something else that I've been questioning, like, why am I getting messages through Class Tag? Why can't I just get a regular email from his teacher? And so I've been thinking about this and stewing on this, and in all transparency, I am really proud and happy of the work that this district is doing when we consider in the response to COVID-19, you know, you've got to weigh out the needs of the teachers, you've got to weigh out the needs of the families, you've got to weigh out the needs of the kids and everyone, right? And so I guess my comment, all of that long-winded to say that a trend that I'm noticing a lot of the times is we're putting teachers first. And I can understand where it's a whole school district, right? And so like somebody's got to look out for the teachers. But when it comes to things like Class Tag and changing things for Zoom, for attendance and all of that, that's where we're missing the mark on connecting with community, because we're not putting community first. We're not thinking about what is the impact that Class Tag or this new Zoom or whatever it is that we're putting in place to make the lives of the teachers a little bit easier. We're not thinking about the larger community, right? Like teachers are in service to parents, to the students. And so we really have to put that mindset forward first around how are we going to first make sure that we're connecting with the outside community, and how can we support our teachers in doing that? And I'm not saying that that's not the way that we've been thinking, but it's just something that I have extracted from these conversations, and I just wanted to name that is something that I struggle with too, even in supervising my team. It's like, is this making it easier for myself, or is it going to be easier for everyone else? And as leaders, that's ultimately the goal.
And Amber, I'd like to thank you so much for that comment. As a community organizer, I would actually challenge the LCAP PAC. We comment and use the word community and advocate for their participation and their consideration. I'd encourage us to bring community and think about through your various lenses, whether it's representatives of school sites or the roles that you play, specific, and we can again put this on the agenda, providing more specifics about how we would mobilize your communities or the communities that you feel you're talking about to engage in a more constructive conversation. Because I agree with you that until we are collectively creating pathways and opportunities for dialogue, you know, we're going to continue to be single voices or small representatives, and that's not truly community. So I'd love to see if, you know, again, if that's the PAC's desire to put that on an agenda item and really utilize the strengths of this team to bring the community to the table.
Thank you. I think with that too, another thing that I've been thinking about, how can we better bridge the efforts in each department so that there's a concise message or understanding or some sort of report out, right? Like, I attend superintendent meeting, right? There's the equity, there's gosh, I can't think of her name, Victoria, with attendance. Like, there's so many different moving pieces that are all interconnected, and it doesn't feel like there's a real, like a cohesive way to tie it all together so that folks at this table or at one of the tables is getting a really concise report out on all of the moving pieces within the district.
Yeah, and you have a very unique role. I think that's a good point, Amber. You play a very unique role as a community representative. And so in the role, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're speaking specifically about representing the Mutual Assistance Network in a variety of different San Juan group meetings. Is that correct?
Not actually. I'm speaking as a parent primarily. I take up space as a parent. I'm not necessarily wearing my Mutual Assistance Network hat in those meetings, and I'm more so looking from the lens as a parent. And so again, coming back to, I'm a community member, I'm a parent first. If I wasn't with Mutual Assistance Network, I would still have my son in this district and I would still be a community member. And so I think that there's something that we can do. Just, I don't know, I don't have all the answers around how to infuse it and how to share that information, but that's like a missing piece for me as a parent in getting that information out to the community in which I live in, being a community member.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll definitely look forward to continuing that conversation and trying to get to more clarity to support our families and our parents and students. Thank you for that perspective.
Thank you. It is 8:16. We have time for one last question related to future agenda items. Okay, looks like we do not have any more questions.
Wow. Oh my goodness. We did it, you guys. We did it. I just felt the weight of the world come off my chest. I was so admittedly just nervous for tonight, and I really appreciate you all and your participation. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting at 8. Well, I guess before we call it, do we need to kind of recap anything, or are we good to just go on ahead and call it?
We just need to get a motion to adjourn.
Oh, look at, see, I knew I needed your support. All right, we're not going to call it. We're going to wait for someone to motion to adjourn. Anyone motion?
I motion to adjourn.
It's Pam. I second that motion.
Was that Chelsea that did the first motion?
Kim Brown.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kim. Okay. All right.
All right, we got Chelsea who seconds. Miss Laura, do we need to go individually and ask folks yay or nay, or?
I think it was Pam who seconded.
Yeah, that was Pam the second and Kim the first.
This can be done as a voice vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 I will say aye as well. Does anyone oppose? All right.
right. Well, we'll go ahead and officially call the meeting and we'll adjourn at 8:18. And we look forward to seeing everyone soon. And thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.